Alrighty, let's go ahead and get this show on the road. Does everyone have one of these? Awesome. I included just an outline and space for you to take some notes if you wanted to. If you don't like to take your notes that way, you can just rip it off and throw it away. Try not to rip it off and throw away all the other stuff because, I worked on that and that would be mean. At least do it when I'm not looking. But I will, every one of those pages will hopefully get at least a little bit of an explanation. So, yeah, maybe keep them around for a while. Welcome. I am John Gregg. I know most of you. For those of you who don't know me, you all know me. You guys are very bold to sign up for a math talk right after lunch. Those of you who will fall asleep, it's very bold of you, But it's a very sexy topic on memorizing math facts, so that will at least keep us all entertained. No, as I was writing these abstracts, first of all, it's very difficult to write an abstract on how to make math facts. They are fun. It's pop and B, So I realized that A, I'm a nerd, and B, no one is going to come to this talk, but here you all are, so that's fantastic. Did you get one of these? Awesome, perfect. Math facts is our topic today. Hopefully this will be both a chance to think a little bit about why it matters, which I think is the lesser sort of problem. I think we all understand why it matters, but I think why it matters has something to say about how we do it. But then really the big question in our room is, how do we get our kids to memorize their math facts? And what are some creative, practical, new ways of doing that I can take back to my classroom? So hopefully that's what we're going to spend the majority of our time on today. And hopefully you can take away at least something of what I've done. A lot of this is hopefully bits and pieces that if you don't want to just say, I'm going to do exactly what Mr. Gregg told me to do, you can take some of the pieces and incorporate them into your classroom as well. So hopefully there'll be some good ideas. But let's start with the problem. And actually, I think the problem is worth talking about here, especially in this room, because oftentimes you don't see the problem with not memorizing your math facts until you get into 4th grade or 5th grade or 6th grade. And I actually want to walk through this problem right here. Okay? I want to do this. Not a kindergarten 1st or 2nd grade problem. None of you would do this. This is a 5th grade problem, right? But I want to watch it happen if you don't know your math facts. Okay? Which means we have to count on our fingers for every arithmetic process. Okay? So 2 times 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Great. 7 times 8, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56. Plus 1, 57. 6 times 8, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48. Plus 5, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53. 0. 2 times 3, 2, 4, 6. 7 times 3, 7, 14, 21. 6 times 3, 6, 8, 6, 12, 18, 19, 20. 6 plus 0, 6. 7 plus 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 1 plus 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Plus 1, 5. 5 plus 0. And 2. So we got our answer, 25,536. And there's our answer. But it took us a good amount of time. Do you notice how many operations there were in a single problem like that. Right? Pretend you're a 5th grader and you just did that to solve that problem. How do you feel? Exhausted, tired, defeated. Yeah. Do you hate math?
Yes.
Yeah, you do, right? You absolutely do, right? Are you interested at all in learning about any of the cool ways in which you could potentially do this a little bit easier, or the kind of how that would work in a word problem? Or are you interested at all in any of those kind of things? You're not, right? Just because the actual arithmetic calculations are so difficult, right? I think I wrote down this requires 6 multiplication facts, and I think there's 11 addition facts in there, but there's probably more. So, exactly, yeah, lots of room for error. If you're counting on your fingers, right, any one of those, and I did that pretty quick because I'm pretty good at knowing my 6s, right? The kids who are doing that, they don't know that, right? It's exactly right. So it takes them even longer to do that, right? The other problem I was going to do for you, long division problem, right? That's actually the worst one. I wrote down there's at least 3 division problems, 3 subtraction problems, 3 multiplication problems, and each of those division problems requires them to check, when you're saying how many times does 6 go into 59, they're not going to know that off the top of their head, so they're going to have to, So I'm not going to put you through that because it's painful. But I think it's important for us as kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade teachers sitting here to have that vision for what happens to those students. Right? Because once they get to 4th and 5th grade, it's painful, and this is where you get kids who say, I hate math, I'm never going to do it. And once you get a couple of kids like that in your 5th grade class, you kind of get a lot of kids like that in your 5th grade class because that spreads pretty quickly. Right? It spreads pretty quickly. So the problem, actually, the real problem doesn't show up in kindergarten, 1st, or 2nd grade. Right? But the solution happens in kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade. And so that's the real difficult problem with teaching kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade is you have to put the time and the investment in for the kid's future, not for their present necessarily. Right? When you're adding 7 plus 6, and your kids are doing it on their fingers, they can get 13 in a matter of a few seconds, and they can get it right. Right? But what happens is this, right? And so you guys have to be on the front lines of making sure that doesn't happen. Okay, so we're going to talk about how that doesn't happen. But that's actually not the real problem here. This is the symptoms of the problem, right? This is what we're noticing in our students. Okay, but what is the real problem? The real problem is twofold. First, the real problem is that finger counting is an absolutely acceptable and ideal way to introduce your students to topics. Okay? That is, when I'm teaching my kids about addition, I'm going to teach them about addition using the counting on my fingers. And you all do that, and I hope you do that, right? Or at least, maybe not counting on your fingers, but counting upwards, right? If you're doing 8 plus 3 at the very beginning, right, you want to do 8, 9, 10, 11. And that's exactly how kindergartners or 1st graders should encounter addition. Right? When you're doing, if you're a 2nd grade teacher, that's maybe a little bit high for a 2nd grade teacher. Kidding. 3 times 4. Right? They should experience it. 3, 6, 9, 12. Because that's what addition is. That's what multiplication is. So the problem here, right? Problem 1, finger counting, or just counting, really, is the right way to introduce arithmetic. It absolutely is. I'm not saying never count on your fingers, right? When you're teaching kids, or never count upwards and backwards, right? If you're doing 52 minus 4, very first way you want to do that, 51, 50, 49, 48. Okay? The second part of the problem is this. That finger counting is super reliable, right? And that kids get the right answer by counting on their fingers almost every time. Right? It's great. We have 10 fingers. It works really well. Right? Kids, it's successful, right? You could do 9 plus 5 on your fingers all day, right? And actually get the right answer. It's because you can look at the end and say, I added those 5, and I got to 14, right? And so what happens is that kids rely on it, right? If it's the right way to be introduced to it, and if it's successful, you rely on it, and you make that the thing that now you're trying to do something new with your students. You're trying to introduce them to other ways of doing this same problem, and they say, "Oh, finger counting is always works for me. I do it this way, right? And this way, I can get the right answer on my fingers." You try to make a transition, but they're so ingrained in their habits, right, that it's actually very difficult to make that transition. So what I want to talk about today is that transition moment, right? And I think this is the second section on your, yes. What do we need? Okay, great. What do we need is a transition, okay? Let me make sure I'm on my notes. Okay, good. So we need transition. Transition from finger counting, transition to, finger counting needs to be replaced by two things, okay? Finger counting needs to be replaced by a place value, right? I'm not going to talk so much about place value today, right? You guys have probably heard place value a ton, and I'm not going to talk about that too much, okay? And to B, what I'm going to call factual fluency, okay? So, and you can't, here's the real problem, right? Only the combination of those two things can possibly replace finger counting. Only the combination of these. So what I mean is this, and let me show you how this works, because right, these words don't really mean anything unless you actually know what I mean by them. So what I mean by that is this. If we take this problem, 59 plus 23, okay? I can do that counting on my fingers. 60, 61, 62, 63, yada, 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 right? I can't even make myself do that. I swore as I was going to this talk that I would actually count all the way from 59 to 82. I just can't do it. I just can't bring myself to do it. Okay, so I failed. Yeah, bad. Okay, so I failed that, but 59 plus 23, you can get it by counting on your fingers, right? And some students will. But the replacement is this, right? And you can watch this happen, right? 9 ones plus 3 ones is 12 ones. 2 ones, and change the 10 ones into 110. 110 plus 5 tens is 6 tens, plus 2 tens is 8 tens. I have 8 tens and 2 ones, which is 82, right? Okay, so this is the replacement for finger counting. Right? Let me just do one more example, because I think I wrote it down on my sheet. Good, okay, so good. 15 times 5, right? Just so you can hear it again, 15 times 5, right? You can do it counting on your fingers, and I'm actually going to do this. 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, right? Or you can do it 5 groups of 5 ones. It's 25 ones, which leaves me with 5 ones, and take the 20 ones and convert them into 2 tens. 5 groups of 110 is 5 tens, plus the other 2 tens that I have is 7 tens. 7 tens and 5 ones is 75. Okay, so we've got the place value, but so what happened there was I knew my 5 times 5 facts and 1 times 5 facts. I knew my 9 plus 3 fact, 5 plus 2 fact, and I also had the understanding of place value to pull it off. Right, and that's the only thing that can possibly replace finger counting is the combination of these two things. Okay, what we call this, right? And this is probably what you're familiar with, or maybe you're not familiar with this term, but it's the standard algorithm, right? It's no longer am I counting upwards, right? It's this process, right? I'm not counting by 38s 672 times, right? But I have an algorithmic process, okay? And this is the standard algorithm for addition, standard algorithm for multiplication. This is the standard algorithm for division. Hopefully you're all familiar with what I mean when I say the standard algorithm, okay? Now, okay, if you've ever tried to teach students this, which I'm assuming all of you have, maybe you haven't, but if you ever tried to teach a student this, the difficult one of these, right, and the one you spend most of your time on, is trying to deal with this guy, right? Trying to get kids to have an understanding of place value. And that's a really difficult topic, something we could do an entire different session on. Okay? That's not going to be this session about the place value language. And if you notice, when I did those problems, I was pretty intentional about using place value language. If you don't do that in your teaching, that may be something you want to think about trying to do, but just be very intentional with the kinds of place value language that you do. You guys are not going to send me down the rabbit hole of place value, because I will talk at you and bore you and make you fall asleep about place value forever, right? But today, I want to talk about factual fluency. And really, the key point that I want to make here is that this needs to happen before this happens. Okay? And here's what I mean by that. Here's why, at least. Okay? If you're a student who your teacher is trying to teach you the standard algorithm, and you don't know your facts, you're going to think this standard algorithm is worse than counting on your fingers. Because of the problem that I have a right and reliable way to do this. This one, I don't know my facts, and therefore this process here is not helpful to me, because I would rather count up 23 to get to 82 than use the facts that I've memorized. Okay? So the way to make the standard algorithm attractive to students is to do it after they have an understanding of their facts. To say, we can take this whole process and break it down into only facts that are between 0 and 10, and we have all those facts memorized. That's the real argument for the standard algorithm, is that it happens it makes use of the facts that they already know and takes a really difficult problem and breaks it down into just facts that we have memorized. Sorry, okay, take a second. Do a little bit of a nerdy moment with me here, right? And look at this, right? This is a difficult problem, and we did it only without ever dealing with a fact that was greater than 10. That's really cool, actually, right? That's pretty good. Math is cool. Math is cool. We broke down that crazy problem into just that. And this is what we want our kids to realize why that's cool. But they're not going to think it's cool unless they actually know the facts that are from 0 to 10. Yes? Right? So what has to happen is this has to happen before this. Right? So these need to be switched. Right? This is first. Factual fluency has to happen first. Okay? We need to get our kids to memorizing. So, and let me give you a little bit of an overview of where things happen. Okay? So, most textbooks, not all of them, the standard algorithm for addition and subtraction happens at the very beginning of second grade. That's not always true. Right? Some textbooks it happens in first grade. And you probably do a little bit of it in first grade anyways. But most textbooks, at the very least, have it at the beginning of second grade, which means that by the end of your first grade year, you need to know all the math facts of addition and subtraction from 0 to 10, and you have to be fluent in them. If you're going to really appreciate the standard algorithm that starts in the beginning of second grade. It's a lot of pressure on the kindergarten and first grade teachers to get their kids ready for that. And that, if you guys can set your kids on that road, that's invaluable. And that, you guys know this because you teach kindergartners every day, and first graders every day, and that's what you've chosen to do with your lives, that it's a noble pursuit. But that's actually one of the reasons why it's hugely noble. And you can, what you do makes or breaks, right, what happens in the upper grades. Right? And no one knows this better than a 5th grade teacher. I brought a 5th grade teacher along so that she could nod at me. And by the time you go to the multiplication and division algorithms that happen at the beginning of 3rd grade, to have all your multiplication facts memorized by the end of 2nd grade. That's a difficult challenge. And I doubt there's too many of us who are really making. So as a 1st grade teacher, if you can get your kids to have all your addition and subtraction facts memorized by the end of 1st grade, that should be just one of your main goals of the year. Right? 2nd graders, 2nd grade teachers, it's one of your main goals. Kindergarten teachers, you guys can play with shapes or something. No, I'm kidding. Very much kidding. Very much, no. You guys know I love you. You know I love you. Okay, sorry. Kidding. We're going to talk about what kindergarten teachers can do. I apologize. I told myself I wasn't going to make that joke, and then I made it. Okay. All right, so factual fluency happens in first. Okay, so factual fluency. Right, factual fluency, right? It's a buzzword. Like, what do I mean? What do you mean by factual fluency, Mr. Gregg? This is just kind of 2 random words that you stuck together, and they sound nice, but how do we do this? Okay, good. So we're doing. Factual fluency has also 2 parts. Surprise, surprise. Okay, factual fluency has 2 parts, and it's 1, right? This is under the section that's titled Factual Fluency. Great. Okay, perfect. Doing so well with this outline thing. Should do this for all my talks. Factual fluency has 2 parts. 1, it has, obviously, factual knowledge, like you literally know your facts. Okay? Is that how you spell knowledge? Good. 2, factual habituation. Okay? So it's a pretty easy dichotomy here. You have to both know something and be in the habit of doing it. Okay? Think of anything that you know or do. Let's pick parallel parking. All right? How many of you know how to parallel park but never parallel park? And that means you don't really know how to parallel park. Yeah, right? You have to both know how to parallel park and do it in order to have parallel parking fluency. Yes? Okay, so factual fluency has 2 parts, right? You have to have first. I'm talking about factual knowledge for just a sec, right? You have to have the facts at your fingertips, right? What I mean by that is this, right? When I say something to you, like I'll give you a fact, 3 plus 4, right? You don't have to think about that to have 7 pop into your mind. You know what I'm saying? Right? You don't have to act, it's that's what you mean by the facts at your fingertips, that you don't have to associate, right? The example that I was trying to come up with an analogy about this, and I don't know if this is going to be a good one, but I'm going to run with it anyways. It's the difference between how I know that Boise is the capital of Idaho and how I know that my daughter's name is Ellie. Okay? There's a difference there, right? I have to think about the fact that Boise is the capital. Like if someone says, what's the capital of Idaho? Maybe I have to, maybe some of you know that the capital of Idaho is Boise, and like that's a thing that you have at your fingertips, so that, in which case this is a bad example. But for me, that's something that I kind of have to think about, that I know, and I can get there. But that's not what I mean by factual knowledge, right? But the fact that my daughter's name is Ellie, right? I look at her, or what's your daughter's name? And I don't have to think about it. It's there, right? It's that kind of knowledge that we want to develop. Okay. And right, again, the big question floating around in the back, like you should have this floating around in the back, right? How, Mr. Gregg? How? Please tell us how to do this. Okay. I'm going to get there, I promise. Right? Okay, I promise. But that's the kind of knowledge that we want to have. All right. So students have to hear 9 plus 5 and not even think 9 plus 5 so much as they just think 14. Okay, that's the kind of fluency that we're looking for, right? And then B, factual habituation, right? Pretty simple. They have to use their facts when they're actually doing math, right? the things they do during fact time during the day and the things they do during math time during the day are not two separate entities. So how do you habituate students to use their facts in your classroom are a couple of the big questions, right? So how do you get kids to have the kind of factual knowledge that we're looking for, and how do you get them to use it? Right? Are kind of, right, these are the big. I want to talk about both of those. How do you pull this off? Any questions so far on any of the problem section? Anyone wondering about something specifically so far that you're not going to be able to move on without getting that question answered? Awesome. Can't tell if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm going to keep going because that's bad teaching. But I'm just going to keep doing it. All right. So the solution, okay? And my solution, you guessed it, has two parts. Solution, two parts. And one of them is, and I don't really have this in the outline. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. So there's some activities. I put activities. I don't really like the word activities, but I put it on there anyways. Just stuff that you do, not more like activities. We're going to do arts and crafts. Okay, not activities. This is just stuff that you do in your classroom. Activities specifically designed for facts, right? And then there's two. Right? There are sets of, what did I say? What else on the back? Daily teaching habits. Daily teaching habits. Daily teaching habits. Okay, so what I'm hoping to lay out for you guys is some practical things that you can do to build your students' mathematical knowledge. There's also, I think, an underrated part here that just habits of your classroom that are hard for me to pin down, except for just kind of give you some advice on how to do this. They're not specific things that you do and say this is math fact time, but it's just ways in which your classroom runs. I'm going to nail down some daily teaching habits that I hope will be helpful, but both of these things need to happen, right? You have to do some specific things for facts, and you also have to have some just habits that you do in your classroom that matter. Right? As you guys, I'm sure most of you know this, right? But as I watch more and more classrooms, as I do more and more teaching myself, right? It's less the specific things that I'm doing and more just the general way in which my classroom runs, the things that I embody and model that end up making the big difference. It's much more the habits of my classroom than it is the things that happen in my classroom that matter. That's why I included that second section. And I don't think this is, I think this is, it's an underrated part of, often when we're trying to fix a problem, we look here, right? Actually, we should probably look here a lot more. So we'll talk about those in just a sec. So under the activities, I have them specified again into two parts, right? There's activities for learning new facts. And then there's, did I say practicing? Practicing old facts. That makes sense. Some nice parallel structure. My wife would be proud. Practicing some old facts, right? So the difference between, okay, I have a kid who does not know that 2 plus 3 actually equals 5, right? Or 9 plus 8 equals, or 6 times 7 equals, right? That's this first part. And then the second one is, okay, my kids know that 2 plus 3 equals 5, but they don't have real factual knowledge, and I need to get them to I need to practice it over and over and over with them. How are some ways to practice facts? Or they just learned 3 plus 4. I want to incorporate that into all of their other facts as well, right? So some ways to learn new facts and some ways to practice old facts. Okay, so learning new facts. And I want to actually pose this question to you. Think about the difference between how I know that Boise is the capital of Idaho and how I know that my daughter's name is Ellie. Okay? I think what matters is how I learned that fact. Matters how we learned it. Okay? So, someone give me some answers maybe think about your own daughter, obviously, right? You don't know my daughter at all, right? Hopefully. No, you don't know my daughter at all. But talk to me about what the difference is between how you learn that Boise is the capital of Idaho and how you learn that, maybe just think about this one. How did I come to learn that my daughter's name is Ellie? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Absolutely. Definitely that's not the case for Boise, Idaho, for me at least. Okay, I actually named her, right? Yeah, no, my wife did, but I kind of named her. I was there. Say it a lot. Yeah, I repeat it. Yeah, very good. Very good. What else? That's exactly right. I've got some memories that are associated with it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just one, yeah. Okay, yeah, no. That's fair. I will probably. It's a good point. Yeah, but I place some kind of special emphasis on it, right? Yeah, absolutely. Good. I came up with 7 things that are the way that I learned how to do it, and most of them are actually on this page. So you can turn there, okay? I came up with 7 different ways. So this is under learning new facts on the first page of your thing. You can take notes. Learning new ways. I came up with 7 ways. 1, all right, there's some kind of a tangible encounter with her, right? So for Ellie, this was I have physically met and interacted with her, right? I've never been to Boise, Idaho. I don't have any physical, tangible encounter with Boise, Idaho. I don't have anything associated with Boise, Idaho in mind. So under the right, some kind of I need to build it. I need to actually have an encounter with something physical that puts that physical thing in my mind and in my experience, right? Some kind of a physical encounter. It's not just 6 times 4. It's not just that 6 times 4 is floating in this abstract here, right? But I literally have something in my mind that I can count. I have 6 and 4, right? And what did I have a picture of there? Yeah, I've got some egg cartons, right? I have egg cartons? Yes. Looks more like 12 times 2 to me, but maybe you have half egg cartons, right? Yeah, you have 4 half egg cartons. That's what I have. Is that what I have? That's not what I have. Okay, so 4 half egg cartons, right? Or 6 4-leaf clovers, right? Some kind of a physical encounter with your fact. Okay? Some kind of a building of it. Okay? 2, one of the things that I can do with Ellie, besides the tangible encounter, visualization spelled with a Z or an S. Who has thoughts? S. Definitely an S. Visualization with an S. Yes. When I close my eyes, I can think of Ellie. I can picture her. Right? If I close my eyes, I cannot picture Boise, Idaho. There's no visualization of it. Visualization, right? Yeah, draw it. Right? Some kind of a way of visualizing, of drawing, of converting it. This is the Singapore model, right? This is the one thing you guys know about Singapore math. There's the pictorial, right? This is the one thing that we all know about Singapore. Okay, good. We may not know anything about Singapore math, but we know it's about pictures. Okay, good. Visualization. Good. All right. 3. I spend time comparing and contrasting Ellie, right? In what ways does she look like my wife? In what ways does she look like me? Right? Her fingers are bigger now, right? I spend time discussing, comparing it to other things, right? Comparing and contrasting it. 4. I discuss her, I contextualize her, I observe her, I'm continuously having her be part of the things that I do on a daily basis. I'm willing to talk about her, right? If you ask me to show you a picture of her, yeah, I will talk to you about, I could talk for a long time about this, right? I discuss her and contextualize her. 5. Yeah, I find her beautiful in some way, shape, or form, right? It's part of the reason why I remember her is, and that's not true for Boise, Idaho, right? Maybe it is for some of you, right? But I find her beautiful in some way. And I think what's on here, right, is, this one is, this is find, appreciate. I'm either looking for her, looking to observe her, right, or I'm appreciating. Right? I'm finding some way to find it beautiful or interesting or meaningful. Right? I guess I think I have that. Beautiful, interesting, meaningful. And then as some of you guys said, maybe this Mrs. Cowser over there, right? I repeat it over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. I see her every day. I call her by name every day, right? Repeat it. I really should have brought that as a PowerPoint slide. She's so cute. Oh my gosh. She's 7 months. So she has her first tooth in today, so she's pretty happy. There's a 7th one on here that I'm going to come to, so leave a little bit of room on the bottom of your page for a 7th one. I think there's a 7th one that matters. But so how do I take this stuff about my daughter and transition it into the math classroom, right? One of the things that I propose is some kind of, and when you're learning a new fact, is to try to learn it on a bunch of different levels, right? I'm proposing, and you may want to take this, I've had some really good success with it in my classrooms, but some kind of a fact of the week, okay? And what this is, this might be a picture of my whiteboard or a corner of my whiteboard over the course of a week. So picture this in the corner of your whiteboard. Now, you got your fact of the week up top. You find some way to build it, to tangibly encounter it. Right? Maybe I doubt you can find some 4-leaf clovers, but for multiplication by 3, you can find 3-leaf clovers. Maybe not some of you who don't live by clover fields, but you can find some 3-leaf clovers and bring them in for multiplication by 3. But finding some way to build it, finding some way to get your kids to tangibly encounter it. Right? Stick some magnets in the back of those clovers and stick them up on your whiteboard. Right? If you don't have magnet tape in your classroom, magnet tape is literally the best invention for teachers ever. You should get some magnet tape. It's like $2. Build it. Find some way to get all your kids building that fact. Okay? Draw it. Draw it. Right? And you can do this. You can do one of these every day. Right? You have a whole week to do a fact. One of these every day. Right? You build it one day. 6 times 4. This takes you 2 minutes. 5 minutes in your classroom, right? Draw it. I use mustaches because I think mustaches are fun. Most of your kids probably think mustaches are fun too, but you can use whatever you want to draw it, right? What should we use this week to draw it, kids, right? And draw the fact. Everyone get out to your own whiteboards and draw it. Find some way to draw it. Encounter it on that level, right? And then every time you say, close your eyes. Remember what we drew? Remember what we drew? What did we draw for this one? They're really struggling with 6 times 4. This was the mustache fact. Already, it's starting to get ingrained, habituated into their heads. little section right here, compare and contrast it, right? Take a day and say, what facts do we know that are close to it? What facts do we know that have the same answer? Have an answer that's really close to it? Right, now you're actually getting into the realm of some number sense, which, whoa, wait, hold on, we can't get our kids to develop. No, yes you can, right? Number sense, right? 6 times 4 is the same as, 6 times 4 is close to, right? Compare and contrast it. Spend a day comparing and contrasting it. Find it. Find it's a really fun one. It doesn't have to be done every day, but over the course of the week, you find it in some of the problems that you're doing, right? I found, these are probably not problems that you guys would be doing, but I found 6 times 4 in a bunch of problems, right? I circled them with yellow. Looks kind of weird, but anyways, I tried. I circled them with yellow, right? And you can find it. Keep track of all the times that you find it. Make a challenge, right? Tell your kids to clip up if they can find a fact of the week in any of their math problems, right? If you can find the fact of the week somewhere, oh, Miss Dallard, we found the fact of the week. You know, they get so psyched about this kind of stuff. Find it, right? Appreciate it. Find some way to make it meaningful. I was looking for 6 times 4 facts. There's not really that many good ones. The cool one that I found was industrial-sized muffin tins. Like, I really love muffins, and so you can ask my wife. Really like muffins. I didn't know they made 6x4 muffin tins, but now that I do, I think I have to get one. I don't know if it'll fit in my oven, but that's a cool fact for me, right? And now I remember 6 times 4. You know, finding some way to do that, right? Or a standard photograph, right, is a 6x4 photograph. And then repeat it, right? Repeat it probably being and now I'm getting a little bit more into daily teaching habits, right? But think about the way that you do all your rigs things, and I'm not a rigs expert, so please don't ask me any questions on rigs. But one thing I've heard them talk about is something called punctuated practice, right? Which happens over the course of the day, right? Math facts, a fact of the week can be something you can punctuated practice, right? And sneak attack the kids, right? Be like, I was just, you're in the middle of your science lesson. And you're like, oh yeah, I was just thinking about, what's 6 times 4? And 24, but this kind of repeat it. And then you'd make a little mark on the bottom of your board where we practiced our fact, right? We had 6 times 4, we repeated it over and over and over again. And so at the bottom of your board, maybe you have a little tally mark, this kind of punctuated practice. If you take a fact of the week, you do that with it, think your kids are going to remember it? You think you're going to have some things to draw on when you're talking about it and when your kids struggle with it? Remember what fact that was? What did we have up there that we built it with? What do we have up there when we drew it? Flip your packets to this guy. It's probably a little bit more information than you wanted here, and it's not the only way to do it, but you could potentially do a fact of the week for almost every fact could be a fact of the week. All right? I don't have 1 plus 1 on here, or 1 plus 2, but I don't think you really need a fact of the week on 1 plus 1. Right? Probably not. Okay? But over the course of first grade, you can cover all of if you have a week on all your addition facts, you can get all of them. You can spend a week on them. Right? Here's one suggested schedule. So what I have here is the kinds of facts that you should be working on. So kindergarten, I'll address this none in just a sec because it's not actually none, but it's, let me come back to that. Please, I know that some of your kindergarten teachers are frowning at me like, what do we think we do in the first half of kindergarten? Right? No, I don't think there's none there, right? But I'm sorry. You were just glaring. I was getting some death stares from the kindergarten teachers. I apologize. Okay, so the way you read this, right? The top little bar is the kinds of facts you should be working on, right? So plus or minus to 10, that's everything from 0 plus 0 to 5 plus 5. Okay? Review plus or minus to 20, right? That's everything from 0 plus 0 to 10 plus 10. Right? And 20 minus 10, right? All the way. Right? And then for multiplication and things like division and things like that, I just did the 2s, the 3s, the 4, the 5s, etc. Right? Okay. So, and you can see it's a pretty. You can look through the 3rd through 6th grade section. Gets a little bit crazier there, right? But under this, you've got a fact of the week. And so there's 4 facts underneath there. You got 4 weeks in a month, right? You could potentially do all of those facts of the week and still hit almost every single fact if you just did 1 a week. You think, is that enough to cover all the things? No, if you do 1 fact a week, you can still cover all the things you need to cover. And if you're doing a fact a week, if you're learning it, if you're internalizing it, now you're taking 5 minutes a day. You get your math facts memorized when you're supposed to. When we talk about the first half of kindergarten, the reason why I don't have anything there is because you don't ever get the addition process. It's not that you don't know facts or aren't using numbers and figuring out relationships to numbers, but you don't actually get the addition symbol until halfway through kindergarten. In the textbook, at least, some of you, I'm sure, might do it at a different time. So that's why I don't have anything there. Not to say you couldn't do a fact of the week, and you could do like the 1 plus 1s, the 1 plus 2s, things like that if you wanted to in your kindergarten class, but you don't have to. But I think the second half of kindergarten, that's a you got to start doing facts practice then. You could do a fact of the week in kindergarten, and that would be really, really wonderful. I think if you want to extend it backwards into the first half of kindergarten, I have no problem with that. But all this schedule was just to say, even if you don't have anything in the first half of kindergarten and you only did 1 fact a week, you can still do it, right? 1 fact a week. Learn it in the same way that we learn the things that we want to remember. We learn them this way. We don't learn them by reading them out of a book. We don't learn them. We learn them by being intentional about finding meaningful ways to encounter them. Right? You don't have to do something like this on your board, but if I was trying to teach someone something new, a fact, this is what I would do. Put it on my board. You need 1 section of your board. Put some tape. Write some stuff in permanent. Don't write some stuff in permanent, but build it in permanent ink up there. So you just have to erase it. Don't do that. Something like this for learning new facts. That's what I would do. If your kids are behind, you're a second grade teacher and they don't know any of their addition facts, you can back up the process. You can back it up. Okay? It's the same kind of a process for learning whatever fact you want, but it's just one potential schedule that you might, if you're a school leader, this might be something you share with your staff. Say, here's a potential schedule that you're responsible for these facts. If you're a first grade teacher, you'd be like, all right, I'm going to go talk to the kindergarten teachers at my school and make sure they're doing, I'm going to go talk to the second grade, whatever. Okay, cool. You guys know about that kind of stuff. Any questions about learning new facts? Yeah?
Well, I have a question. I don't know if I teach kindergarten and we do like a number talk.
Yeah.
We start from day 1.
Yeah.
So is that something that's similar to this?
Yeah, I think those are going to be more. It's actually going to be closer to the daily, more the kind of habits that you do in the classroom, I think.
We use a 10 frame.
Yeah. No, I think those are more. Yeah, I think these are going to be. I'm going to get to those kind of things a little bit closer to here. I'm just talking about if you have a brand new fact, treating it as a fact, something that you want to memorize. But I think those are great teaching habits. Yeah, that's exactly right. But this is just one way that you could learn new facts. Yeah, good question. Any other questions about maybe some ways in which you could teach your kids a new fact? That's what I would do. All right. Practicing old facts. Okay? I would spend, if I were you, I would spend 10 to 15 minutes every day practicing old facts. Okay? 10 to 15 minutes every day practicing old facts. You can do it at the beginning of your math lesson, at the end of your math lesson. My favorite thing to do is to not do it at all around your math lesson and do it sometime in the afternoon when the kids are a little bit weird and squirrely. Okay? So you can focus your math time on your math lesson, but you still have, you still have 10 minutes in the afternoon. You got a weird 15-minute block in your schedule. Make that your math facts time. All right. Okay, so practicing old facts. What I would do if I were you. So there's a couple of bad things that happen when we're trying to practice facts. One is we do the same thing every single day to do it. Okay? Kids get bored, and it's not as effective as if you were trying to do 5 or 6 different things. Okay? Same thing every day. So this happens most often with either speed tests or flashcards, right? And you know, right, flashcards are easy. You just hold them up. Flashcards are easy. Speed tests are pretty easy. You print it off. You give it to the kids. You have 2 minutes of silence where they are, right? And I think they're both really good things. Speed tests and flashcards are part of the curriculum that I'd recommend. They're both very good things, but I would not recommend doing them every single day. A couple reasons. One, kids get a little bit bored of them. Even if they say they love their speed tests, maybe they get a little bit bored. 2, it really only works their brains in one way, right? It only works their brains in one way. Whereas if you're doing 5 or 6 different things, you're working their brains in a variety of different ways. You're getting them to think differently about something, right? So if you've only been practicing your math facts in one way, challenge yourself to branch out. Branch out a little bit. What I've done is I've got 5 things that I would do, okay? I would do, if I were you, you don't have to do this. You can take this is one of the things you can take a little piece and go with it. 5 things. I would do one of these every single day. So Monday is our speed test day, right? Tuesday is our, whatever, right? No, don't write that down, write it down. But I'm going to give you the actual schedule. But like this is, again, so all I'm trying to do is, so it preserves some of the things that you like about something that happens every day, right? Everyone knows this is speed test day. There's a speed test. There's order. There's structure. The kids can follow it, right? If you're doing the same thing on every Monday, the kids are it may take them a little bit longer to habitualize to it, right? But they know what to expect and they can follow the set structure, right? Which is one of the reasons why you like doing the same thing every day. Right? So same thing every Monday, same thing every Tuesday, same thing every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You can expect this. You can get in the habit of it as a teacher. You don't want to be constructing something new every day, right? You don't have time for that. You have lives, right? You have other things to do. But if you're doing the same thing every day and you have 5 things you teach your kids, you're getting the kids to get some variety in their day. So this is what I would do. There's 5 things that I do. Number 1, this is what I do on Monday. This is my Monday game. Where am I? Can I fit these here? Probably have to. Oh, wait, I have a 7. Oh. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to use my last board. Okay, so Monday. I call this game plus minus plus minus. You can probably think of a better game than this, better name for it than this, but I call it plus minus plus minus. My kids absolutely, absolutely love this game. This is their favorite game. I do it on Monday. I don't know why it's their favorite game. I actually saw some teachers in Louisville, I think, playing this. Maybe. So if you're from Louisville, nice. I think they were playing this. Okay. But it goes like this, and I've actually got a piece of paper in here. So turn, maybe, to this. There's a page. It says plus minus. There's some examples. Okay. And what happens is they have a whiteboard. Okay, or something to write on. It can be a piece of paper. It doesn't really matter. If you have whiteboards, it's the best, though. Okay? And you say something like, start with 1, add 2, subtract 1, answer. Okay? Right, good. It's written there. It's written there. So those of you who did it, nicely done, but it's also written there. Okay? And you can start really slow. What you don't want them to do is this on their whiteboard. You don't want them doing this. Right? You want them kind of doing something, did I say plus 1? Oh, plus, oh, hold on. 1 plus 1 plus 2. All right, this sounds like a really dopey game. It sounds like a really dopey game. The kids love it. What happens is you start really slow. So what you want them to see on the paper is 1, and then plus 1, plus 2, minus 1. You want to see them writing not this so much as this, where they're doing the facts in their head. There's a subtle difference between this and this, but this is what you want to see. Okay? You can start really slow, but then you always want to start speeding up, and then you finish with one like 1 plus 1 minus 2 plus 3 plus 3, right? And none of them can follow it, right? But it's always you always get them going. But what this game is doing for them, right? It's doing a lot of facts in conjunction with each other, right? And you can see on this piece of paper, right? This is, maybe if you're a kindergarten teacher, you're doing facts that are along the first 2 lines. But this game can be played all the way up to the 8th grade, right? And even longer. Some of those ones at the interesting ones on the last little few lines there, right? Some of you might have trouble with these if I were to actually do these ones and require you to do this kind of mental math, right? But this game is really, really flexible. And the kids, they love this game, but it's doing a lot of their facts, and have them keep score on their own whiteboard. If this is their whiteboard, if you get it right, give yourself a point, and then see how many points they get at the end, right? You don't need to make it a huge game, but it's a really good way of just getting that. It's easy. There's no materials required. It's not a very big thing, but you're working on the facts, right? Notice, right? You can always incorporate the fact of the week into these games. And kids can find the fact of the week, right? And the kid is like, that was the fact of the week where we started. You can get the fact of the week into this game really easily, right? I found it, Mr. Gregg. There's no end to the kind of complexity and speed that you can do. You can vary it, right? For kindergartners, as you're just introducing, you can go really, really slow. But by the end of 2nd grade, you can go pretty quick with this kind of things, You can ask good questions at the end, right? Saying things like, why was that one so difficult? What was the hardest part, right? Which one did we really struggle with? Those kind of things. Anyways, plus minus. Really, really easy game. Really, really good for math facts. Right? I would do that on Mondays. Any questions on plus minus? Very easy. Obviously, you can mix in some additions or multiplication and division if you want to. You can call it something else. Yeah? Yeah, I really want, so let me give a couple answers. A, I think if you ever ask me, do you think they should draw it? I'm going to say yes, right? But actually I think more no for this game just because they're working on mental math facts, right? I don't want them to have to draw the answer to get these right? So I'm going to say no, although in general I want to encourage drawing. Is that an okay answer? Okay. Yeah, I would say no. What you want is to see something like this. Or even better yet, if they can do it without writing anything on the whiteboard, that could be, you could make that worth double points. I don't know, I've never done that, but that would be a good rule. Okay, cool. Any other questions on plus minus? Very easy game, super good. Okay, 2. On Tuesday. Tuesdays are my least favorite days as a teacher, so we play my favorite game. Tuesdays is target war. Okay, so you can flip to the page. Flip to the page that has target war on it. For kindergartners, I play this game with dice, just because so that restricts you to numbers up through 6. Every other grade, I play this with playing cards. Okay, which are really cheap. Every kid has a deck of playing cards. I take out the jacks and the kings. Throw them away. Don't even give it to them. The queens are zeros, because the Q kind of looks like a 0. And then you have just 0 through 10 cards. Right? Great, easy way, right? And so target war, again, there are no ends to the complexities you can throw into this game, but it can also be played very simple. Right? Hope you guys know how to play regular war, right? You turn over a card, your opponent turns over a card, and the highest one wins. Okay? The difference between target war is you give them a target. Okay? So normally if I turned over an 8, Mr. Dubravik turned over a 2, I would win. But if we're playing target war with a target of 3, Mr. Dubravik would win because he is closer to 3. Okay? So it's not just, because kids don't really do any math facts when you're talking about just which one's higher. Like, that's not really a good game. But if you give them a target, now they actually have to start comparing numbers, developing number sense. So when I play with target war, each person flips over 2 cards. I should have brought my deck of cards. What was I thinking? Terrible.
When you say each person, so you have the whole class participating at once?
A couple different ways you can do it. You can group them in partners and have them play against the person next to them. Or they can play against you, and you can put one on the document camera, and then they're playing it individually. So if you turn over, let me just explain the game first, and then we can go, maybe let's do that. Right, you want to roll 2 dice or flip over 2 cards. You don't want to just flip over 1 in regular war, you're flipping over 2, okay? And you're giving them an operation and a target, right? And you think that kindergartners can't quite handle this, but they can handle it, especially by the end of kindergarten. Definitely can handle target war. You flip over 2, so there's an example here. Let's look at the first example. My operation is addition, okay? And my target is 6, okay? So one person rolled a 4 and a 5. The other person rolled a 3 and a 1, okay? 4 and 5 is 9, which is 3 away from 6. And 1 and 3 and 4 is 4, which is 2 away from 6. So the person who would win would be the person who rolled the 1 and the 3. They would give themselves a point, and you'd play the next round, okay? What you really want to do is get your kids talking or saying it out loud, right? And say 4 and 5 is 9, which is 3 away from 6. So they're not just kind of, they're the ones doing their facts, and the saying of it is good. You have to make sure they say it in not really loud voices so that you don't want to kill yourself. But so then they would one person would give themselves a point, and they'd roll again. If we look at the second example, right? I've got cards. I've got an addition, a target of 10. 3 and 9 is 12, which is 2 away. 4 and 0 is 4, which is 6 away. The person who had the 3 and the 9 would win. So you're doing, but one thing I want you to notice, and I'll get to that question in just a sec, right? I want you to notice how many facts you have to do in order to play this game once, right? Think about it. I've got to both know my 3 plus 9 fact, right? I've also got to know my 12 minus 10 fact, which is 2. And I've also got to make a comparison between mine and the other person's, right? I have to know that 2 is less than 4 and that I am the winner, right? And so they're doing these facts. Right? Now, you've got kids that are doing multi-step problems, which are some of the hardest things ever to teach kids just to play the game, right? They're doing 3 facts in combination with each other. Right? Question?
I was just going to say that you can do interactive dice games.
Okay.
You know, project them on the board to teach that game.
Yeah.
And, divide the class into half, and just so they learn how to play it before.
Yeah. And this goes back to your question, right? Sometimes you can have them play just with the person next to them, or I like to just play where I'll turn over 2 cards under the document camera, and they'll turn over ones individually at their seats, and you'll see if you can beat the teacher. All right. See how many points you score against the teacher, and then you can have one winner over the whole class who, like, I scored 10 points against the teacher, right? And so it also keeps the chaos a little bit less, right? We play a lot of beat the teacher in my classrooms. Just beat the teacher is, you play against me instead of playing against each other. It ends up being a little bit chaotic but sometimes they can handle it, right? Sometimes not. So again, there's no end to the complexity of this game, right? Look at this last one, right? You can multiply the greater two and subtract the smallest one with a target of 32, right? So this is another really good way, if you've got some really advanced students, mess with them, right? Say, all right, you guys, you're no longer playing with 2 cards, you have to play with 3. Right? And even something like that can challenge your really good students, right? As you're going around, and if they're playing in partners, it's a great way you can differentiate in your classroom just with the game, right? Without having to mess with some of the kids who really need to play with just 2 dice. So Target Wars is my Tuesday game, mainly because I hate Tuesdays because they always seem the worst. Great. Yes? Yeah, so the first time you play it, and the first couple times you play it, it's going to have to be your whole math class to do it, right? Because they've got to learn it and they've got to practice it. But after they know how to do it, I can just say, operation is addition, your target is 8, go, right? And that can be, I'd say about 10 to 15 minutes. Not super long, but just enough to get some points going. It's another good thing to do if you've got kids that are finished early with their worksheets, right? You got 2 of them, say, go sit quietly in the corner and play Target War, right? Great thing to do with your kids that are done early. They know how to play the game. Now they're practicing their math facts in the corner. Right? Oh, yeah. No, you don't get to just rush through so you can play the game. No, that's a good point. All right. Wednesday. I do flashcards on Wednesday. And if you I do them whole class flashcards. What I'll do is I'm sure you all have different ways that you think you can do flashcards, but I'll just hold one up and I'll call out a certain type of person, like boys, and all the boys have to give the answer, or people with glasses, or people whose last name started with H, right? And they have to call out the answer. So they always are kind of figuring out who's calling the answer. You guys can do whatever you want for flashcards, but finding some way just to get flashcards are one of the best ways to just get a lot of repetition, real quick, lots of repetition, real quick, lots of repetition. I do flashcards on Wednesdays. You can come up with a game for flashcards if you want, but I just mainly just kind of flash some cards around. Okay, great. Thursday. Yeah, I do speed tests on Thursday. We keep a lot of you guys have systems, I'm sure, for keeping track of who's doing well on their speed tests. There's a lot of good speed test generators online if you haven't found them. My favorite website for this is webmathminute.com. You can tell it exactly what kinds of facts you want and how you can do a lot of different kinds of things. You can do just addition, subtraction. Basically, you can generate however many questions you want in whatever order you want them. Lots of flexibility there, and then just print them out. Speed tests are great, and I'm sure you guys know how to do speed tests. Last game, Friday. I'm sure you guys can think of a better name for this, but I play Find a Number That, and you can turn to the last page of your packet here for some examples. This is less math facts so much as working on kids' number sense and their creativity, right? But find a number that something and give them some specifics, okay? It can be as simple as that's 5 less than 7, right? really this is, okay, right, you can see a bunch of examples, right? I've included a ton of them. Again, there's a lot of complexity. You can mix this up. This is a, if you were to implement this throughout your whole school and kids do the same thing for K through 6, like, no, they would just be, they would know what to expect on every Friday for their whole, right? You'd have some consistency throughout from year to year, from class to class, right? But anyways, right, because you could play this as 6th graders, right? And it gets really fun. I play this with my 12th graders. I play it differently and I call it a different game, but yeah, I play, it's a game called Crypto, and I give them 6 numbers. And they have to make the first 5 numbers equal that last one through some kind of operation. So I would do something like that, right? All right, 11 plus 1 raised to the 19th power is still 1. 11 plus 1 is 12. Right? Yeah. Right. But my 12th graders are really good at that game, and there's nothing. Right. But the roots of that game are in this game, right? Is it's number sense. It's finding what is the number. How do numbers relate to each other? What's the number that's 5 less than 7? Right. Some of the good ones are the ones that vary, right? 17 and 18 are really good. Find 2 numbers that add together to get 11, right? Or even find 2 sets of 2 numbers that add together to get 6, right? All sorts of creative questions you can get your kids thinking about. And again, you can just play this with the whiteboard and marker, right? Just say, hold up your boards, right? Find a number that's 5 less than 7. Hold up your boards. If you got it right, give yourself a point. Right? Really easy game. Friday, you don't really want a particularly complex game so much as you just want, right? They're ready to think creatively and do something interesting. So you can get, this is a really good game to push the limits of their understanding. Right? So if you've only done numbers through 10, right, and you're thinking, find a number that's 4 greater than 7, right? Really pushes their understanding here, right? If you've only done positive numbers, right? This is more for like a 5th or 6th grade one. Find a number that's 6 less than 2. Like, really messes with them, right? This is for like the last question or 2, right, of the game where you really want to challenge them. Right? Things like this, you can really.
Would you also add the vocabulary, changing up the words so that they get the vocabulary? Like we're having to learn. 5th grade was having to learn. Buy means this.
Yeah.
Just so that they continuously hear.
It's a great point, right? Find the sum of 8 and 3, right? You can reinforce the vocabulary words. It's a great point. Yeah. So that's what I would do. Just 5 different kinds of things working on the same set of math facts. I would spend 10 to 15 minutes in your classroom. These are my favorite games. And kids get excited about not having to do the same thing every day. And it's thinking about them in different ways. One thing that's really important to do, and this is a good segue into my last set of thoughts, right? Some teaching habits. Good segue is when you're done with the game, make it a point to ask a question about what just happened. Okay? It's an important point. What I mean by that is this, right? Ask a question like, which of the facts today was the hardest for you? How can we remember that one? Which one was the easiest one? My favorite question to ask, especially to kindergarten, 1st, 2nd graders, is, what was your strategy for that game? There is no strategy whatsoever in target war. None whatsoever. But every kid has a strategy. They're like, I do this, Mr. Gregg. Like, okay. Right? There's no strategy for this game whatsoever. But all of them want to explain to you the way they think about it, right? And it's so good for them to think about those kind of things. Right? They all want to do that. Ask them a question like that. Ask them, did you see our fact of the week anywhere? Right? Or even just, how'd you figure that one out? How'd you figure that one out is a really good question, just to say, that was a tough one. How'd you figure it out? Right? Or, what are you going to do different next time we play the game? Right? Just questions like that. Just one question at the end of the game, just to get them in the habit of thinking about the strategies, thinking about the facts. Which one was the hardest? 6 times 4? Oh, let's remember that one next time. Or, I think that's going to be the fact of the week next week. Whatever. Okay. Daily teaching habits. Just my last section, hopefully. Is that right? Is there anything else on my outline? Oh, yeah, good. 7 is actually the first daily teaching habit. Good. So, daily teaching habits, and I'm out of space on my board. I'm erasing this problem because we're solving it. Just some things to incorporate into your daily teaching habit. Yeah. Number 1, and that's actually this here. One of the other reasons how I know that my daughter's name is Ellie. Right? I expect it. Right? If I forgot my daughter's name, do you think my wife would be upset at me? Yeah, probably. Yeah, no, expect it. Right? Once you have the knowledge like this, right? I don't expect you guys to know that Boise is the capital of Idaho. Right? We're going to do trivia tonight. I'm not going to expect you guys to know the answers to the questions that I'm going to ask. But I expect you to know 2 plus 3. Right? And once we have a fact in the week, I expect my students to know that. Right? So, daily teaching habits. Expect, what did I say? Something? Yeah. Expect your students to use them. So, this is a difficult part of teaching. Okay? That means that when you see your students counting on their fingers for a fact that you know that they're supposed to know, you've got to tell them to stop. You don't have to be a jerk about it, all right? But saying something like, we know this one. This is one of our facts of the week. Can you think of that one in your mind, right? We're second graders now. We know that one. We don't need to count that one on our fingers. We know that one. That was one of our facts of the week, right? That was something that we know, right? Find a way to expect it of your students, all right? If students know that their teacher is going to make them use their facts, they're going to use their facts, right? If they know they can get away with counting on their fingers, not an easy thing as a teacher, right? You got so many things that you're trying to do and trying to keep track of. Like, all right, he's counting on his fingers. All right, let him count on his fingers, right? I don't have time to deal with that right now. Be intentional about expecting it. Expect it. Right? You don't have to go crazy about it and hold them to ridiculously high expectations, right? And it's a process to get them to stop counting on their fingers, right? To work with them to do it, but you also have to hold them to some expectations. Expect it. 2. Work some facts into your lesson plans. On my lesson plan sheet, I have a box, right? It just says facts. Whenever I think of a moment during the class where I think, oh, I'm going to stop here and we're going to talk about the facts that we know. That's what I write in that box. Find some way to make it an intentional part of what you're doing, right? Highlight the fact of the week. Figure out if there's good ways to remember the fact, right? Stop and appreciate that we know that fact, right? Point is, you have to make it a priority for yourself if you're going to make it a priority for your students. Okay? Got to make it a priority for yourself. The best way to do it, incorporate it into your lesson plans. 3. Get excited about your facts, right? This is the easy one to do as a teacher, or at least it should be, right? Get excited about when you see your fact of the week. Right? Especially kindergarten, first and second graders, right? They respond, they get excited about what their teachers get excited about, right? If you are a teacher who really likes the math facts, right, your kids are also going to do that, right? If you're a teacher who doesn't really care, kids aren't going to care. Right? Get excited about them, right? Facts are useful. They help us, right? If facts find ways to get excited about, we know this fact. It makes this problem so easy. We know this one already, right? The best problem in the world should be this one. This is the best one. No. Something like this. All right, this is great. 11 plus 11? It's a great fact, right? We don't need to know anything else but 1 plus 1 is 2. That's so great. We don't have to count from 11 up to 22. It's a great one. It's a great fact. Stop and appreciate it. Say, we only needed to use one fact and it was the easiest fact. Okay, cool. Get excited. I need some more water. Look for patterns, look for tricks, look for songs to remember them, right? I'm not usually a fan of songs too much, but songs to memorize facts, rhymes, like I still know 6 times 8 I used to hate, but now I know it's 48, right? That's how I learned that one. I still remember that one. Whatever it is, right? That's right. Find some facts. You just want the kids to memorize them, to internalize them. Find some ways to get it, to emphasize them. They're interesting. They're not boring. Fact time is not boring time. It's fun. And, put the fact of the week stuff on the board. 4. Talked about this one a little bit. Sneak attack them, right? Or punctuated practice, right? Facts are something that take 3 seconds in the middle of a day, right? One teacher, I saw this was really cool. I don't know if you all have something that you do like 1, 2, 3, and all your students say like eyes on me or something like that. Instead of doing that, she would yell at a math fact. The students would have to say the answer, and she'd both command their attention and she'd yell the math fact of the week, and right? And if someone wasn't paying attention with their math fact of the week, like there would be punishment, But right, instead of just doing 1, 2, 3, she would give something like that, right? But punctuated practice, some kind of sneak attack them, right? In the middle of your science lesson, math fact, right? Okay, cool. 5. Yeah. Talk about the strategies. Okay, we talked about this a little bit with the games. Okay. The best question here. Yeah, something like this. How did you figure it out, or how can we figure it out, right? Some kind of talking about the strategies. 6 times 4 is 6. Doubled. Right? Finding some kind of talking about the strategies. Talk about how we can remember it. Not just expecting them to remember it, but giving them some ways in which they can remember it. Okay, talk about it. Lastly, really good one for kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. Yeah. Assign them, right? Kindergartners and 1st graders especially, they don't need to be going home with worksheets every day, right? But they do need to be going home, something to do at home. And if it's teach your parents target war and play that for 10 minutes, that is the best homework assignment you can possibly give to a 1st grader. Oh, that's so good, all right? Assign it. You don't want to be, it saves you on grading. You don't want to be grading their worksheets every day. It's terrible. 2nd graders, you're starting to get in the place where maybe you can send home a worksheet now and then, and that's a good thing for them to start doing, right? Or a page from the workbook or something like that every now and then for 2nd graders. But still, assign them. Have them go home and do the flashcards with their parents, or have them go home and play target war with their brother, right? This is the best. And if you want to make an assignment, right, you can whip up a page that has their parents' initial 5 times that they did it, right? And you want to make it for a grade, and you give them one on Friday or Monday, and they bring it in next Monday. They're like, I played this game every night with my parents, right? You can give them grades for it, right, for your homework assignments, but use their homework time to practice their facts, right? Parents love that kind of stuff. Most parents do. Some parents don't. Some parents don't. A lot of parents do that. A lot of parents love that stuff. Assign them. Have a contest to see how many times they can say the fact between leaving school and coming back the next morning. See how many one of them gets to. It's a fun one. Hey, and I'll end with this. I know I completely blew through my question time. But just lastly, get creative. Right? Lots of different things that I haven't listed here. You can get creative about finding ways to get your kids to memorize their math facts. But that's got to be a goal for if we're ever going to get, I erased it, right? If we're ever going to develop some factual fluency, it's got to be intentionally done. I'm out of time, and you guys are tired, and you need your leisure activities to get to. Please, if you have any questions, come talk to me or send me an email or like just, you know. You don't have to use all this stuff, but just there's some stuff. Have a good afternoon, all.